So if everybody's good, I'd like to call to order the Board of Selectmen meeting for Monday, March 23rd. Please all rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Moving on to first Selectmen's updates. Not really anything, just want to highlight that we're in budget season, and the budget public hearing is being held next week. And we encourage the public to attend that. I think it's on March 31st. It's at Town Hall in the Madison room. And you can also attend virtually with that, but encourage everybody. This is going to be the final budget meeting. And then the Board of Finance afterwards will vote to send the budget to referendum if they, after they have the public hearing. So the referendum, just as a reminder, is on Tuesday, April 28th. Oh, is that right? Yes. Yes. You know that, right? Okay, great. But that's it in terms of my updates. Any liaison reports or selectmen comments?
Yeah, one quick one. The Affordable Housing Committee met last week, and it sounds like they've just started receiving some guidance from the state with the new affordable housing regulations. And basically, I think if I understood this correctly, our current affordable housing plan is kind of obsolete now. And so they're going to need to re-enter into a process for that, potentially reevaluating what their scope is for the town. So that's some stuff they're going to be working on over their next couple meetings and come to us with a presentation on how we should move forward.
I think it would be a really good conversation because it is going to have an impact on a number of things, the Planning and Zoning Commission. And so to kind of lay it out, I think there's some interesting things in there that'll be good for to understand better. So we'll certainly have that. Probably the next couple months, you're saying.
Yeah.
And they would like to come to us and kind of walk through.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Any other liaison reports or? Okay. Al, do you have anything to add? You're good? Okay, great. All right, we'll move on. Item number 5, the citizens' comments. I know we have a number of people in the audience. If you raise your hand and state your address, please, and you can address the comment.
Walter Lippman, citizen of Madison for 34 years. I live at 11 Sycamore Lane in Madison. I have 3 things to bring up tonight. One of them is, and just give you a little history, several years ago, I had the privilege of being able to come before this board and recommend the late Donald Rankin as Citizen of the Year. And subsequently, the Citizen of the Year has been named after Don as the Don Rankin Citizen of the Year. I come before you tonight to make a recommendation for 2 other people to be Citizen of the Year, not where one is going against the other, but because one and the other, besides being husband and wife, you see one, you see the other, and they do everything together. I am talking about Kenny and Sandy Everett. In the 34 years I have lived in the privilege of living in this town, I have never heard anybody say anything contrary about Kenny or Sandy. And I will give you an example of something. Several years ago, one of my neighbors was overseas in Afghanistan, dealing on behalf of our government, not as a military person, but in another capacity. And he was gone for almost 2 years. And he came home and his property looked like who did it in the rain. Well, I happen to have a tractor, and I went over there after he came home from work at night when he was reassigned back to the States, and was trying to help him clear out the property. There was one hellacious tree that I couldn't even think about moving. So what did I do? I called Kenny up, who I've known for many, many years. And I said, Kenny, I need a favor. And I gave him the background of my neighbor. And I said, Kenny, I can't get this out. He says, Walter, I'll send an excavator over. I'll get it out. You get rid of it. I said, deal, Kenny. Never sent a bill or anything. This is just one small example of this, I'd say family, because they are a family and they're well known in this town. And I've never heard anything bad said about either Kenny or Sandy. Okay. Whenever I've had company visiting me, if they have any interest in Kenny's barn with the horses, with the antique fire apparatus, etc., which makes the Smithsonian look like a poorhouse. Kenny has been gracious enough to say, Walter, I'll leave it open. Go do what you gotta do and lock it up on your way in. You don't find people like this. Okay. So in this much like Don, I asked this organization to do something while somebody can appreciate it and be alive to appreciate it. And I'm not going to say anything further at this point, but I would like to nominate, if that's the right word, I don't know, for Kenny and Sandy to be co-citizens of the year and recipient of the Don Rankin Citizen of the Year. That's one item.
Thank you.
The next item is, I think the town did a wonderful job with these hellacious snowstorms that we had. I think the DPW did a very, very, very good job. I'm here to praise them. And I think under the leadership that they now have, sets an example for everything. Next item is, many years ago, I told this board, it is not the town's responsibility to plow the sidewalks downtown that are owned by property owners. It is not town property. I lived in Greenwich for 21 years. I owned property in Greenwich, and I had 24 hours to have my sidewalks cleared before the cops would start writing tickets. Also, if somebody slips and falls, and believe me, last week I almost took a dive on the sidewalk. It was so bad. Somebody slips and falls, I don't have to ask you all who's got the deepest pockets. The town of Madison has the deepest pockets. It is the responsibility of the property owner to do this, not the town. And believe me, if somebody fell, everybody's going to get sued. And I understand a letter has been sent to the property owners without mentioning the person's name in this room, telling them it's their responsibility to take care of the sidewalks, not the town's responsibility. And I would hope that you would make this official and cause a letter to be sent to every property owner in downtown, along Wall Street, whatever. It is not when I say the town's responsibility. And also, if you need to get a ordinance passed, have the cops ticket anybody 24 hours, 12 hours after. So I would hope that you would do that, because God help this town if somebody slips and falls on it. Okay. The other issue is there are trees. If you come down from Green Hill Road on 79, you will see trees that are split, bending over, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I have mentioned that several times, and in the past, nothing was done by the past tree warden or whatever that person was called. Go look for yourselves. Don't take my word. And I also said once before, 4 or 5 years ago, in either Darien or New Canaan, I don't know which town it was, 2 people were killed in 1 week by falling trees in the same town, whether it was Darien or New Canaan. And I'm sure you can find that out soon. again, the responsibility. The state will be pointing at the town will be pointing at the state. Let's get it done, fellows. Also,
Yeah.
on Well Sweep, which is perpendicular where I live, kids walk Well Sweep to 79 to get the bus. Take a look at the trees where there's a conservation area there, right by the road. Take a look at some of the trees there. Who wants to be the first one to pick up a phone and tell their parents that their kid is in the hospital or their kid is home?
Okay, all right. Well,
That's all I got to say. I'm not supposed to criticize any individuals. I'm here to praise what the town did. The storm, it was a hellacious storm. And I didn't hear anybody complaining, nor should they.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you
Doctor.
for your comments.
I would like you guys to think, I said you guys, ladies also, I would like you to think very seriously about both Kenny and Sandy being co-citizens of the year, the Don Rankin co-citizen of the year. And don't wait too long. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Wow.
Thank you.
Um, Thank you. And I guess we'll move on to.
Anybody else?
Oh, sorry. Yes, of course. Sorry.
Not a problem. First off, I'd like to second this gentleman's keeping up the work. They did a great job. So thank you. Robert Letzkis, 32 Hathaway Lane. Company name is Refine Living. They're on something 90 seconds. I'm one of the correspondents for the Academy School Expression of Interest. First off, I'd like to extend my appreciation to the other 3 respondents who took the time to submit proposals for the Academy School, providing creative redevelopment solutions for this beautiful building. As a resident of Madison, I myself, and I'm sure others personally, appreciate their time, professionalism, and patience with this process. I'd also like to express my appreciation to the Madison Board of Selectmen, the committees, professionals, and everyone else who has taken the time to carefully evaluate each of the proposals. We sincerely hope this board will select a development team with proven experience of redevelopment of historic buildings throughout multiple municipalities, state of Connecticut, a team with an arsenal of licensed and proven professionals that can navigate through the challenges that may arise with the Academy's redevelopment and handle them accordingly to see the project through. A team that will work tirelessly on the project and will unify Madison's respective committees, municipal leadership, little and softball league organizations, local businesses, town groups, organizations, and most importantly, the residents finally come together to vote in favor of what can be a very special and celebrated development. We're excited about this meeting as we learn which direction the board will be taking regarding the future of the Academy School, and look very much forward to hearing. Thank you.
Anybody else here? No? I don't see any hands for this online. There'll be an opportunity at the end of the meeting, as there always is for everyone. So thank you. Moving on to item number 6, consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any further comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Move on. Item number 7, and 8, kind of 2 together. Follow up on Academy due diligence items. So I just wanted to highlight, we had quite I think a good discussion at our last meeting to talk about a lot of the questions that have arisen from the project. The different proposals that we received from the different respondents to the expression of interest process. And we did identify some areas, I think, that we all walked away recognizing we need to get more information on. But we also talked about, isn't it easier to do that if we kind of pick a path? And I think we have these choices in front of us. One is more focused on housing, and then one is more on this concept of a hotel or hospitality option for the building. So I think the big due diligence items, just to summarize, really were what we see as the septic capacity down in that area, and also the impact it will have on the other town buildings, the other municipal buildings at that site. And then there was obviously parking was another concern. And then I think we had some questions about process. So those are all things that I'm working to get some more information on. It's going to be reaching out to some advisors and coming back to this board to make a recommendation on how to address the septic question. So that's kind of, I don't really have any new information since we just talked about this last week and exploring some of that. But I do feel if, you know, if everybody's ready to talk about, we can talk about item 8 when we're ready, but I do think that each of us have kind of come to a point in our thinking of taking a path, so to speak. So I guess I open it up for discussion. So.
Are we on 8? We
All right.
moved on. Right. You punching it to me first? Is that what you just did? Well, so we had, I think, 4 incredible options that came forward to the Board of Selectmen, and certainly Robert was one of them. I appreciate you being here. I think as I distill what the town needs, the location, other options relative to our sort of facilities study that's going on right now with some of the plots of land that may be available, buildings that may be available, kind of strategic plan, master plan of all our facilities. I'm definitely leaning towards hospitality at this point, so I think that's probably where I'm going to go. I just think from an economic development standpoint, it feels right to me based on a whole host of reasons. And I think if I was to pick a path, that's where I'd go.
You know, when I think back on the process that's taken place over the years, with the initial community center conversations, even the sale of Island Avenue School, 2 of the biggest comments I remember hearing from people is A, they didn't feel that housing was the right option for that area within our town. And B, especially with the conversation surrounding the community center, there was a big desire to see revenue generation through, tax impact and that sort of thing, for the benefit of all members of the town. So with that being said, when I look at the options that were presented to us, I feel that the Stowed Hotel option is what is going to be meeting those kind of initiatives that folks in the community have expressed over the course of a number of years for that particular property. I agree that there's more that needs to be investigated in any major redevelopment opportunity for that site because, as Trent explained to us, the septic considerations, as Aaron pointed out in her letter, the rezoning that's necessary for that portion. And then, we did receive a lot of feedback from different committees within town that all seem to be supportive of going towards the hotel option as well. Even our Affordable Housing Committee wasn't ready to stick a flag in the ground in support of housing at that location. So, we're receiving a lot of feedback from appointed and elected and just, general comments in town that have led me in this direction.
I think it's a good point too. I forgot to mention that the EDC was, I think they sent us a note and they were certainly very supportive of that hotel option.
I guess the way I've always looked at Academy was that there's an opportunity to do something transformational for that part of town. And so as you look at the different options presented to us, I feel like the hotel concept in general creates transformational opportunity. It has huge rewards in terms of tax revenue, in terms of bringing in more activity to downtown or citizens benefit. It brings amenities to residents. It also has the biggest risk, right? And I think that's where the risk reward trade-off is that we really need to kind of understand those risks a little bit more and understand and do that more due diligence before I think we have anything that we better be able to take. Right. So I'm comfortable prioritizing that idea because I feel like we've heard a lot of excitement around it in the public. I feel like housing has been a conversation for a long time here, and we've never been able to come to an acceptable resolution with the community. We hear over and over again, not the right location. Like, we're okay with other housing options, but let's find some other locations. And that kind of is how the community center evolved out, right? Part of that argument was public land, right? People didn't want to have housing, private development on public land. And that's going to be part of this discussion process as we move forward to make this project economically viable and successful for the town. There is going to have to be some change of thinking of use of that land, right? We're going to do a land lease, so we would maintain the land, but we're going to have a broader conversation about how that's all going to be used. But ultimately, we need to package this in a way that serves the town well, and then let the people decide. So I think our goal today is to say, let's keep going down that hotel path, get our due diligence questions answered, and try to come up with something that we can actually take to the public that they can support. And I'm comfortable doing that with this concept at this point.
I think that's a good point. Just briefly, I'll say this before we move down the line to Bruce, is that investigating any of these options, but as we're so far leaning is the hotel, investigating any of these options isn't necessarily saying this is what's the ultimate referendum question that's going out to the public, but we needed to get to a point where we could start to answer bigger questions as we moved forward in the conversation of anything that we were going to present to the public. So
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the public decides.
Mhm.
We do
Public
not.
decides, and this is certainly a very new thing that the town has never talked about, which is really exciting too, and so I think taking it and trying to move it along in the process and answer a lot of these questions will help us make finally a decision of what we send to the public. So, I'm comfortable moving forward and focusing on the hotel as the concept of the building, and doing some more diligence, coming back and talking about what that would be and the timing and the cost of that. So,
Well, while the development of the property as a hotel is new to the conversation, the commercial development of the property is not new. And I'm reluctant or maybe unwilling to walk past the overwhelming public sentiment that we saw 11 years ago.
Sit down.
No, it wasn't that long ago, but it feels like
2017, you talking about 2017?
Where we heard a very loud voice about how we should treat the property, and part of that voice was don't sell it, don't lose it as a public space. At the time, we were focused on saving the building as well, when we thought synthesizing all of the sentiment into a community center might possibly work. But when we take that option off the table, which we have, I think the only thing we're left with is a public green space. And that's the position I'm at. I understand that we're going to do diligence on the carrying capacity of the land and the viability of other projects. But for my part, the only thing I'm going to be supporting is a rigorous discussion around a public green space. And I don't mean a fancy green space. I mean a canvas, a blank canvas that can then become the starting point for a more thorough, comprehensive discussion of what we do with that area. But we are here again, almost a year later from the referendum, and I don't know that we're really that much farther along the path. So sure, we'll pick up a front runner for this and do some diligence around that. But this is where I've been since day one, and I'm still here.
We weren't expecting anything different.
So,
But to your point, Bruce, I do think it's important that, as much due diligence as we feel is necessary to put into the hotel option, that we do an equal amount of due diligence into a demolition and green space option, because I do, think that's the only way to present it fairly to the public for a really true informed vote on their part.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, too, think about it with the due diligence process, we may get there anyways. I mean,
Right.
we may decide at some point down the road of this detailed process that the septic doesn't work or whatever, right?
The site can't support.
But I think it's an important, like, you hit an interesting point about selling. That is not, at least with this process, that's not on the table right now. So we're not talking about selling the land, we're talking about leasing the land, making it revenue generating. So I want to make sure that that is said loud and clear.
So we are taking the land off the table for 3 generations.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
I'm going to call that a sale, effectively. So we're in our 200th anniversary. We're talking about taking a piece of time equal to half of our existence and taking that land off the table. And a community amenity, sure, if you have deep enough pockets, you can afford to stay in a high-end hotel, you can afford to spend $400 or $500 on dinner. It's an amenity to that community. It is not an amenity to anybody who can't afford it. So I'm a little reluctant to call it an amenity. Yes, in a perfect world, if it's hitting on all cylinders, it generates a lot of tax revenue, but that's not a certainty. You know what is? Tear the building down, plant some grass, and we're done. We're out of it, except for the cost of cutting the lawn. That's a certainty. That's the only certainty on the table right now.
And I think the counter argument is, what do you do? So one of the goals of the whole EOI process was preserving a historic building in our downtown. This is historic preservation.
And I did not vote for that process.
Right. So
I've tried to be consistent and transparent.
Yeah, and I think, we've had these debates, so I think we all understand your perspective. You're a tear it down guy, keep the land. I think we're all, let's make it something that serves the community, creates economic vibrancy, and is transformational for the Madison future. Like, what does the Madison future look like? And the location is very unique. The building is very unique. So
Let's let Al talk.
So yes, Al. Al,
Thank you.
So,
Yeah, at an inflection point like this, I'm always of a mind to look back to our charter. And it seems to me, I'm just reminding myself that the Board of Selectmen has 2 roles at this moment in time. One would be to remind ourselves that we're trying to represent all of Madison, as many interests and parts of our community which we possibly can. And the second thing I'm reminded of is that the job of the selectmen is simply to frame the issues and then bring them to a referendum. At this point in time, I do believe that hospitality serves the broadest interest of the most number of people in town. And while I recognize there's going to be a lot of challenges in making that kind of a project feasible, I think I would like to see this Board of Selectmen continue to gather information and see if we can frame up a proposal for the public. At the same time, to understand what the cost of just creating a grassy area is. So at the moment, I would like to see us learn a whole lot more about whether that hotel would really work.
okay, so I think the item I would like to read item number 8. And I guess I would like to discuss and take action to conduct a additional due diligence on the hotel concept as preferred development for the Academy School property. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, so we kind of talked about that leading up to this. You want any further comments? Like I said, this is just taking one more step in the process. That, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I
Okay, nay?
Nay. Listen, I think if you're gonna build a hotel there, this is the right thing to do. I think building a hotel there is a mistake, so for that
Okay.
reason, I'm
And
out.
yeah, we'll live through the process and then ultimately it'll be, if we ever end up in a referendum. So thank you for that, and we'll continue on. There'll be an additional follow-up discussion on what those steps are gonna be for that due diligence design on it, okay, and the costs possibly for that. Okay, moving on to item number 9, discuss and take action to award a contract to Dorita and Sons Construction Company pending state approvals in the amount of $2,906,460.50 for the Cops Road, Warpus Road pavement rehabilitation project funded through the state of Connecticut's local Transportation Capital Improvement Program, and authorize for selectmen to sign all contracts and documents associated with this award.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I know we have Rob here, but any further questions on this? This is a project that has been woefully needed for a while, and I think we're excited to finally get this moving forward. And you know, obviously the state is paying for all the construction costs.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And we've gone through the process there. So any further questions for the board
I
member?
just have a tangent question. How did the roads fare over the winter? Not good?
Have you been on Green Hill lately?
Have you been on Summer Hill?
Yeah,
Well, but I mean, go to Guilford. I promise you, the roads in Guilford are worse.
They took a beating this year. It was a very harsh winter for the roads.
Yeah, a lot of potholes, big one.
Does that change the paving schedule or the reclamation schedule?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have to probably reevaluate it.
Hopefully we'll have some additional funds in payment schedule. So that's another conversation. This road has been needed for a long
God.
time, and we've been kind of holding off on this.
I've got a
because of this
feeling
green
somewhere on Cops Road that
Well, this is happening at an advantageous time then, post, harsh winter.
Yes.
And I think it's gonna be locked the pricing in until because we don't know what's gonna happen with some of the raw material pricing.
What's the timing?
So, obviously this, your action here is to, award the contract. We're still waiting, the pending approvals from the state. We got an informal approval, but the actual, authorization to award should be any day. It should have been Friday, but I'm waiting. So pending that, and then given the notice to proceed to the contractor, I'd say probably by April.
Oh, wow.
Mobilized.
Oh, so they're quick.
Yeah, by the time we get the bonds, insurance, you'll start seeing trucks out there. Probably, I'm not sure what end I'm gonna start at. On the southerly end, we are doing some sidewalk on the cop section between Green Hill and Warpus. But again, it should be noted, we're doing significant drainage improvements, roadway reclamation, some sidewalk, intersection improvements, not only at the Green Hill Road intersection, but also up by Durham Road. We've had frequently floods, so that was kind of delaying the process, going through that permitting process with DOT. But yeah, this is a much needed project. Our last collector road that hasn't been done. Last collector road to be done in the last 10 years. We've pretty much done every one except for this one. So
Nice.
where's the sidewalk work going?
it's going on Cops Road between Green Hill and the Camp Hadley Trail
Going north.
going north.
Yeah.
So it's going to connect the existing sidewalk that's there on Green Hill, provide access to the trail system.
On the east or west side?
East side. So, and that's consistent with the pedestrian bike walk master plan that we had done. A lot of people had noted that they want more access to the school area, the trail system. So we hit a lot of notes with that.
Is that in the CIP?
What,
The sidewalk?
the sidewalk?
Yeah.
No, this project was, but then, yeah, this has been ongoing lots of project for 5 years. So,
I mean, this is gone through public hearing, I mean, we've had.
public information.
And I think there'll be some changes to things, right, based on what the neighbors have wanted. I know there have been a lot of different meetings.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the sidewalk and the roadway improvements, what areas we took significant feedback to where the drainage problems are. There are frequent areas of Warpus that don't drain very well. So all of that input was incorporated into these plans. And again, this has been ongoing for
Yeah.
5 years now.
People are very happy to see this happen. And hopefully get done in time for the triathlon.
Yeah, I mean, again,
That's the problem.
it is it is over 2 miles of road, so it is gonna take some time, especially with all the drainage being installed, so.
Okay, any other questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Al, you're good? Yep. Perfect, okay. Item number 10, discuss and take action to award a contract to VHB in the amount of $291,700 for construction inspection services funded through the state's lots of program for the Cops Road and Mopers Road paving vehicles. This project and authorize the first selectman to settle contracts and documents associated with this award.
So move.
Second.
Okay, and this is just additional service that you have to have, right, with projects?
Yeah, so the LOTSIP program allows a 10% incidentals or contingency for construction inspection, so they'll pay up to 10%. So that's what this proposal is for, is $291,000. And again, it's to make sure that the entire roadway is properly tested, and inspections are done throughout the process, so.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye, good. All right, moving on to item number 11, discuss and take action to approve pursuant to Connecticut statutes 824 or referral to the Planning and Zoning Commission to review A, Scotland Avenue roadway improvement project, and B, sidewalk and crosswalk improvements, Boston Post Road, Britton Lane, and West Warwick Road.
Move.
Second. Okay, and this is, Rob, you can just talk to this real quickly, it's kind of a process.
Sure.
we have to go through.
So basically, just based on the Connecticut general statutes, if you're widening a road, narrowing a road, adding amenities within the roadway, sidewalk, etc., we need a referral from the Board of Selectmen to the Planning and Zoning Agency for review and report. So basically for Scotland Avenue, as well as the corridor that we're on Boston Post Road, Brick Lane, and West Wharf, all of the above apply. We're going to be narrowing the road, adding sidewalk, doing probably some vertical or horizontal geometry changes. So this is just part of the process that, based on statute 824, we've done this for other projects we've done recently. So we want to be able to give the P&Z Commission an opportunity to review and comment.
Any further questions on that?
Peggy, I had a question.
Yeah.
Rob, I wanted to ask you if the sidewalk improvements on the eastern side of town need to go through the same process.
The eastern side, over by,
The cottage line.
over there. Yeah, yes, they do. Because again, you're creating an amenity that wasn't there previously. So per the statute, that encapsulate both the easterly and westerly corridor for that project, and then as well as Scotland Avenue, we're obviously narrowing the road and adding sidewalk as well.
So this motion includes the eastern side as well?
Yes. Yes, it includes both projects, the Scotland Avenue and the sidewalk crosswalk, which does include the eastern and western project areas.
Yeah, so when we say Boston Post Road, it's including both the east and west improvements.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great.
Thank you.
All right, yeah, thank you. Item number 12 is discuss and take action to accept the Public Works Department's recommendation to award a contract to Tilcon in the amount of $1,100,000 for road paving. Companies on state contract list, and to authorize the first selectman to sign all contracts and documents associated with this award, budgeted 2025-2026 road paving program.
Move.
Second.
Okay, it's just how we you always go through Tilcon, don't we? Or is that usually we get this state and negotiated pricing?
Yeah, they've been on state contract the last several years.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions for that? No? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, item number 13. Tonight I've asked Ben and then Sam and Austin are here to talk about a plan that we have kind of had multiple presentations on the last I've been in office about how do we improve the public works facility and also how do we get the building and grounds facilities out of the surf club. As we're going through the surf club master planning process, one of the goals has been to get that out of there and use the space more for public use. So there's been iterations have been a walk through this, and this is kind of now a plan that they feel is really solidified and is something that's ready to move forward. So I will turn it over to you. So,
Jeannie, gonna pull the presentation?
yeah, Jeannie, can you pull up the presentation?
While she's doing that, so I kind of jumped into this project in the fall and was piecing together the various iterations that have been going on for years, really going all the way back to 2010 when the 2012 edition of the DPW facility took place. And actually, a lot of this was called out back in 2010 as a phase two to that project. It so much so that when I started looking at the plans that were done, even this last set from October, a piece of it was called out as phase two. And I'm like, well, what's phase two? They're like, no, that's phase two from 2010. Which is why one of the reasons why we should move to a more comprehensive, and we'll get to that later, comprehensive view of this property and not try to hack this up into phases again. Because I fear we're going to be going 14 years between phases, and we don't want to do that. So anyway, while she's pulling that up, I'll just kind of go at it. February 2022, that was the first feasibility study post 2012 project, and that laid out options to expand the existing what they call the DPW garage. Being a former DPW guy myself, I hate that term DPW garage. It's a DPW facility. A garage serves one function. A facility serves many functions. So I'll refer to it as that. To consolidate DPW's operations with beach and rec and emergency management storage all on one site. So there were some, back up one slide, two slides, forward one. There we go. All right. There's a lot on these. I kept it to like 7. So at that time, the overall goals were to store all the rolling stock indoors, all the trucks, plows, tractors, everything. Move beach and rec out of the surf club. I don't know if you guys have been to their maintenance facility over there. It is one of the more tired facilities I've seen. Those guys do a lot of good work out of there, and it is actually a glorified garage. We want to replace the salt shed. That is very much needed. That's probably one of the large drivers of this, a small piece, but a very important one. We'll get to that. And to provide bunk and break facilities for employees. Right now, we don't have either of those things. To the tune of when you have storms like we had this winter, you have guys sleeping in trucks. OSHA frowns upon that. And just from an overall quality of life and workplace environment, not really a good thing. So at that point, we'll call that the first go at this. The site required a massive amount of excavation and movement of materials off-site. There's contaminated soils on that site. And the result of that, it was started referring to it as the one-level plan, because it basically excavated the north side of that site. You guys have been there. It's a flat spot, and it goes a pretty steep upgrade, then another piece up on top before you dip back down the railroad tracks. So that plan was digging into that bank, flattening out the site, and then putting beach and rec off in a separate building. And at that point, that was $7.8 million, and that was in 2021 dollars. Fast forward then to October 23, through January of 25, Stantec was then re-engaged to build upon the original study. And at that point, and I'll show you a cost breakdown in a little bit, but the site work costs in today's dollars were about $3 million. So it was, how do we get the site work cost down? And what came of that was the 2-level plan. So that was the salt shed and the beach and rec shed on the 2nd level. Emergency management storage disappeared, and then beach and rec was still off on their own in a separate building. Obviously, the concern was, why did the emergency management storage disappear? And there still were inefficiencies with employee space. At that time, it was, you have beach and rec over here with all their facilities, then you have public works over here with all their break rooms, conference rooms, all that kind of stuff. So that price was $9.3 million when we added emergency management back in. The original estimate from February 2022 was escalated to 9.3 for inflation. Obviously, 22 was right when we started hitting, or kind of right in the middle of all the construction escalations. And then this plan was $8.3 million, and I'll line all these up at the end.
So obviously the problem there was these inefficiencies with space. There was no emergency management storage. Stantec was tasked to go back at this again, and that's kind of when I started getting wind of the project was in October 25, where Stantec produced this hybrid option. So this hybrid option was all one level, but it reduced the excavations, and you'll see that in the site work costs. It downsized the beach and rec building and then connected it to the public works facility. So it was smaller, and then it was expanded, and we'll go through a site plan in a minute. So it was DPW, and then actual garage space and mechanic space, and then beach and rec on the tail end of it. However, it didn't have any admin space in the beach and rec spot. It also didn't have any employee facilities in the beach and rec spot. Thought behind that was, well, we're trying to eliminate that redundancy. Well, when you have a crew area built for 12 people, that let's call it DPW 12 people and beach and rec 12 people, and then you bring in another 12 people for beach and rec, well, they can't be in that same 12-person space. Doesn't matter if you have it on this side of the building or this side of the building. You need a bigger space. Obviously, you could cut down on certain things, but I mean, you still need the same toilet. You need the same toilet count. You need the same amount of bunks, all that kind of stuff. So the task at that point was, how do we get the employee facilities in the beach and rec admin space back in? That was actually a pretty simple answer. Let's put a mezzanine on top of the expanded garage space and size it to ensure all the original goals were met. So this was when I started getting involved in this in earnest, and flipping the things on here. Janie, could you go to the next slide? Thank you. So the goals for this kind of final stab at this thing was blending the advantageous elements of the prior concepts into a cost-effective design. Each one of those designs, going through this concept wasn't really wasted time or money, because there were a lot of good elements to each one, and also ruled some things out, which is just as important sometimes. We did want to make sure that all the rolling stock and equipment is able to be stored under either indoors or under cover. And we want to accommodate admin space and crew quarters for both DPW and beach and rec, without increasing the building footprint, hence the mezzanine. So next slide, please. So it's the current site plan concept. A little tough to see in that size. I'd like it triple the size if I could. But this is all one level except for the emergency management storage building. That's the only piece that's up on its own over here. So what we've done is, or what they've proposed, is excavating the site, but not as far back as it was, not as dramatic as it was. And also, we're leaving all the soil materials on site by building this berm over there in the corner. So nothing's getting exported from the site. That's very expensive to do. Again, I was trying to keep site work costs down. So this is a berm right here. This building, you could picture it kind of built into the slope. And that was how to get that salt shed, first of all, properly sized, much larger than the one that's there now. Sam will tell you, if we had a properly sized salt shed, we wouldn't have worried at all about running out of salt this summer or this winter, because we could have filled it up. This is where the existing salt shed is here now. So you have the existing DPW garage building, or I'm sorry, the DPW admin part of the building that pretty much gets renovated into the crew facilities, offices, similar function to as it is now. This is the existing DPW garage. This is the addition, so it's an additional 5 bays. And then at the end of it is the beach and rec building, and I'll go into a detail, but overlaid on top of that are their admin spaces, restrooms, showers, things like that. This site, the other advantage of having everything on one level, the actual circulation around the site is much, much better than it was when it was 2 level, where it was extremely cramped and we were driving big trucks and equipment through here. This way you have a nice traffic flow all the way around the building. So this plan from a operational logistics standpoint works well. We'll get into cost. From a cost perspective, it works well. But it is not conducive to phasing. This is, you go at this thing once, you build the facility that you need. And we'll also get into why it makes sense to keep this facility at this location. Jeannie, next slide. So this is just a blow up of what the beach and rec mezzanine plan would look like. Obviously, these are nowhere near architectural floor plans. This is kind of space planning concept only at this point. So bathrooms, break room, bunk room, small kitchenette, and then office space in the corner. Down there is the beach and rec shed plan. Jenny, can you back up to the slide? I didn't mention that in the last one. So over here, this is a shed. So this is a three-sided building that is not enclosed or heated space. That is to fit some of the smaller beach and rec equipment in. You can flip back to the next one now. So that just lays out what equipment is going in that three-sided shed. It's about 1,500 square feet.
Who would go in the office portion of the space?
Also, that's Craig.
10, well, there's 10 guys on buildings and grounds.
It's the grounds guys. Okay.
Yep.
Craig and his team, basically.
Craig. Yeah.
And then just for the public's benefit, this then vacates the office / storage space that's currently located at Surf Club, kind of next to the stadium.
Correct.
Just so that people in the public can.
Yeah, and that would be built into the Surf Club master planning process to vacate that space to re-engineer, reimagine what you would want to do over there. So,
But not the beach and rec space like Austin where you guys
Correct.
are, right?
Correct.
So you guys stay where you are, it's just the back piece.
next slide, please. So this is the money shot here. So when you line everything up, we're going right back to the original design in 2022. As you can see, that site work number, all these numbers were from Stantec. And then what we did, we escalated them. I did this in December and put everything in $2025. So everything was lining up. So at that, we're talking, $3 million site work project. Then these are very high level breakouts. So it's site work, architectural, and other. Read that as building the actual buildings and structures. Stantec total was their estimate total. On top of that, I added design of 10% and then a small amount of FF&E that's fitting out the offices, furniture, things like that. Of 200,000, I added that to each one. So that would give you a total budget number for the original design. That was the all one level of 10.3 million. So some of the pros of that met all the objectives of the original, all the original goals set for the project. It kept everything on one level for ease of maneuvering and aesthetics. The property just looks as it should. Cons, obviously, we talked about excavation, and you had to export soils. They had greatest unknown for potential contamination costs when we started removing soils from the site, having additional testing done. Where does it go? Depending on what's found in the soil, it could go in to what degree. It could go to different places, has to be treated differently. So biggest unknown. It's also the most expensive option. So went into January 25. This is the 2-level plan. Site work reduced pretty significantly down to about 2.4 million. When you add in the buildings, we're at 8.3. And then again, add in design, soft costs, FF&E, we were at just under 9.4. So pros were we had beach and rec on site now. They're in their own building, limited excavation, and the emergency management shed was added back in. But at that point, it was kind of thrown back in and nobody really knew where it was going to go. The real answer was there was no good place for it to fit in that design. So cons, the site was split into 2 levels. It was less than ideal traffic pattern, very tight. When you looked at it, even if you weren't familiar with how DPW operates or really civil design at all, you would look at it and go, yeah, that's too tight. That's not going to work. That was definitely the case with this plan. The salt shed was difficult to access and load. It was all the way up in the top corner of the building, not really where you'd want it. And it still required the export of contaminated materials, even though there was less of them. So October's redesign, we're down to 2.1 million in site work. This was 1 level except for emergency management, which was up at the top. That was just a little over $9 million with this plan. And this is similar to the one you guys were just looking at. Beach and rec was downsized, was attached to the other end of the DPW building. And we were using all the soil on site, so there was no export. But it lacked crew space. The DPW areas were too small to accommodate the combined crew. Again, if you go from 12 people to 24, you need space for them. Then current plan, where we are now, $9.8 million. Let's fast forward to the totals. 9812 is our total concept cost. And what that did was it put beach and rec now in the building, in their own space as a mezzanine, but all attached, trying to keep the building itself as efficient as possible. This meets all the project objectives. Obviously, downside is a little bit higher cost than the 2-level, but it is less than the original design. So these numbers are very close to each other. So like when you first look at this, you're like, Wow, you did a lot of work to arrive back almost to where you started in the beginning. But again, as a newcomer to the process, I could see how it evolved. It did, in its own way, make sense to evolve like that. And I think it was time and money well spent to really get us to what we want, or the most workable concept for this facility. Jeannie, next slide, please. That's the last one. So then the question is, why expand 16 Footpath Road at all? Why not look for land? Why not look for a big open plot of land that we could just build whatever we want and not have the restrictions of the site and the topography over there? So there's several reasons for that. One, it's a known and accepted use of the property. People are used to Public Works being there. They're used to the traffic, they're used to the noise, they're used to the type of operation. So maybe some of the close neighbors would say we don't accept it, but in general, it's accepted use of the property in town. There's a construction company across the street from it. Moving that operation to any other part of town would be a shock to other areas. Obviously, some less than others, but it is a known entity. Its essential location within town are both Beach and Rec and DPW are pretty solid on that the location works for their operations, being obviously a little more southerly, but closest to where most of their operations are. And it meets the goal of accommodating Beach and Rec's move out of the surf club, like we talked about. That could be built into their master planning. It takes care of that, and from what I understand, that's been talked about for a long time. And we are sharing resources between operational departments. We're putting two operations that have similar functions, not exactly the same, but we're getting them in the same spot. I mean, it sounds silly, but like they're able to share tools. They're right in the same area. Though mechanics don't like sharing tools, but don't tell my son. The other thing is there's a water main that runs through the property. Sam, how much did you save on that? $400,000. So there was a Connecticut water main that was literally running east to west right through the property. We had it moved at zero, or Sam had it moved at zero cost to the town. That was an obstacle to development that has now been taken care of. It's rerouted, and it was no cost to us. It also reuses almost 10,000 square feet of original building infrastructure. So there's already a building there now. That building is not going away. That building is going to be pretty lightly renovated. It's not major surgery. We don't have to bring in new utilities to the site. Now we might have to upsize what we have there, but there's no significant site work. You buy raw land. I mean, you are spending a significant amount of money bringing in water, bringing in sewer, bringing in power, working with the utility companies, to bring in new services. It's a huge deal to develop raw land. So when you take the sheds out of it, the Beach and Rec shed, the total site would be about 26,000 square feet. And that's about $369 a square foot compared to new construction from raw land. Again, these are very rough numbers. You'd be talking about $700 a square foot. You'd be at about $19 million. Also, very importantly, so the construction can begin within 1 year of funding versus 2 to 3 years or longer if we're not using town land. If we had to acquire land, it's even longer than that. But to go through the entire process of developing raw land and everything that's involved in that is years. Now, that's not to say if it made sense to do that, we wouldn't do that. Perfectly capable of doing that. But it's just one more thing when you look at every other reason of why we should stay there. That's one more thing to consider. So we pitched this exact same plan to the facilities committee back in January. They asked a lot of really good questions, and basically the outcome of that meeting was they would endorse it and include it in their master planning process. So from what I understand, they have kind of built this in as this is what the need is for this property, and this is the plan we've coalesced, or the concept we've coalesced around for the good of the town for this site. So with that, I will stop rambling and take questions, and then Austin Hall knows, and Sam Burr here as well to fill in into the operational impacts.
And does this take into consideration any of the costs related to the surf club, removal of that?
No, it does not. Good question, but yeah.
Do we have any sense of what that might cost too?
Yeah, so that was not part of this. That I would build those costs into the master planning process. The garage there is just an old school pre-engineered metal building. To get rid of that, it's on a concrete pad. So to get rid of that is a pretty easy trip to the scrapyard. Literally, it's just a shed.
Is it a shed you could take apart and move?
This thing you might, when you take everything out of it, I think some of the shelves are holding the walls up. You and I could go over there and probably swing a bat at it. Then there's the administrative facility that's on site there, which is like a prefab house essentially. That would be something that you build into your master plan. That would be movable. It was moved there and it could easily move out into somewhere else. It's in pretty decent shape. It's a nice little building. Kind of odd for what it's being used for, but a good building.
So one of the concerns that I have is that's a pretty penned-in piece of land, and the town's infrastructure needs are not going to go down with time, and you're going to be built out there.
No increase, you're saying?
There's no place to go
Yeah.
from there.
So it's a lot bigger than it is now. So we're going from 10,000 square feet plus, do you know the square footage of your beach and rec garage there, honestly? It's a 3-bay garage, so a couple thousand square feet.
6,000, yeah.
And you're going to 26. So I mean, you're building in. This is a much bigger facility. So this is your future. Are you going to get even bigger than that if Madison becomes the next Middletown? Yeah, it'd be too small.
Well, I'm sure when we're building out that barn, that facility, to where it is now, we thought that would last us forever.
Yeah. Well, not really, because phase 2 was part of the plan, right? So you had actually 6 bays. That was phase 2. It was supposed to happen a couple years later and never happened.
But we're not adding 6 bays.
We're adding 5.
We're adding more, right? We're
Are we
adding
still
more
using the
than
one
just the
here too,
bays.
on campus here too?
What's
So
that?
is that taken into consideration also?
Well, I'm sorry.
The one that's here,
No,
adding to the
the
square footage.
the storage barn that's here.
Yeah.
No, we just redid that. That stuff is not moving over to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And some of this is tactical because it's good to have some equipment running their auto.
Yeah.
And I would envision there might be some sort of shed system at the surf club too, possibly things
Yeah.
there. that
We'll
you don't wanna
need,
be
we'll
dragging
need storage
every day,
there, but
right.
not
Yeah, but
nearly
not.
what we have now.
Right.
If this happens.
But you're adding the bays, you're adding beach and rec people space.
Yep.
You're adding a shed, you're adding the salt, you're adding the emergency
Changing the
services.
salt, yeah.
So we're adding a lot more than just
Yeah.
5 bays.
I was
My
point
question
was
is,
that
where do we go from
Right.
there if we need more?
Yeah, I'll look for something.
I'm hearing we don't.
I mean, you're asking a question that's impossible to answer. So I would say,
So we're-
what statistics do you have that's going to show Madison is on a trajectory to add 10,000 people, or name your number? I mean, like, what you're looking at is a reasonable plan to meet the needs of the district. Are you future proofing it for the 20 years from now that we now don't know about? I don't know how to answer that. Is there room to expand if they get an extra truck or if they add another employee? Sure. Do you expect in our budgetary environment to do more than that now? Because I've never seen any data or inkling that there was a desire to expand these operations.
I guess where I'm going with all of this is, you say raw land is expensive. We have land up at the stump dump where we've got a little elbow room.
Yep.
We could lay out today's needs and set aside expansion spots for tomorrow's needs.
But what I heard was site work would be incrementally more.
Yeah, so you have a very tough site up there, really rough topography up there. You have, I think that was a landfill at one point, right? So that was a landfill at one point. So got to be really careful with site work there. You're at the end of a residential street. So again, there's that shock value. There's, from people bringing, brush to
On
the
a
dump.
residential street.
Yeah.
So, and I promise you, the people, when we were going through the expansion here, were not happy about that expansion in there.
Okay.
Of the stuff or the
No, the
At the.
current?
the 4-path location.
Yeah, I mean, you're adding from a traffic standpoint, basically the beach and rec crew coming and going from there, and they're coming and going from the surf club now. It's not like that was a park before, and now you're adding an industrial operation. It already is an industrial operation, and has been forever. So
Facilities committee did speak about this and they actually looked at, I just don't remember all the conclusions, but they had looked at the Ridge Road site. They have other concepts for that site, given some of the limitations.
Yeah, they want it to be houses.
Yeah, well, they do, but they also didn't feel that, I think the other thing was the tanks, and there's a couple of other things that was.
Yeah, I'm not that familiar with the site, so.
No, I'm talking about with keeping it
Septic,
for
the
category.
septic fields are still up there.
Yeah, there was a number of reasons that they kind of, because they were skeptical about this too. I was the one that made these people go through all these iterations because I said, I'd rather write a check,
Yeah.
buy blank land, spend all this money on site work, right? Because this is
Right.
still incorporating, how much is the site work on this again?
In the last plan, it's just over 2 million.
Yeah, so I'm like, could I, for 2 million, get like a flat piece of land in a better location, room for expansion? We talked about this 3 years ago, and I think after a lot of conversations about what the options would be and where we could do it. And then the facilities committee kind of thought about it. I think the end of the day, they came back and said, that it was better just to keep it in this location. This made the most sense given what's there. So.
You're also not spending $2 million to level this site. The $2 million includes the foundations for the new structures,
Yeah,
all
okay.
that common,
So
you know.
not just the line. I
Yeah,
just
it's not
remember the
just,
detail.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of concern at the time too. There had been an additional almost $500,000 cost moving a water line that went right across the property. We fortunately advocated to CT Water and they ended up putting it in their own capital plan and they got the water main out of there. So that's saved us $400,000. Yeah.
So it used to be the old Bridge Street, used to be a road that went through there. That's why they've got the water mains there.
I remember when it was a street.
So, so there has been, and look, I mean, you're coming into this kind of cold. You've seen some presentation about this, so I get all the, I think the conclusion was that they've spent a lot of time looking at this, and Stantec has, and the facilities committee, and they came up with, if we want to consolidate beach and rec into one facility, this is the way to do it. This is the plan to do it. And you can't, I tried, I said, we gotta be able to do this cheaper. I was the one like, well, why do we have to level it? Why can't we just have 2 level, And I think it came down to all these different things. They landed on this optimal plan. So I think that, the way I see this is, we have to make a decision at one point. Do we adopt this formally as part of the capital plan?
It's not in there right now.
The salt shed is kind of a placeholder for this because 3 years ago, I think the numbers were just so daunting and so this is gonna have to be part of some bonding package. We just can't write a check for $10 million. So I think we have to look at this. We're gonna be getting a report of different things back from the facilities committee. The surf club master plan is gonna come out. And then I think our board is gonna have to then look and prioritize. This is the furthest along out of anything that we're gonna see. Because it's vetted, it's a plan that's actionable pretty quickly. It has big price tag, so where does this fall in line with other things and priorities in the town? And do we think, is it first in line, third in line? I think we're gonna have to have all those conversations. But the first step is saying we support the plan. And I think that's something I don't think we have to do today, right? But I think we have to probably over the next couple of months start pulling all this stuff together and deciding if we want to adopt this as the formal plan for CIP.
just from the capital perspective, this actually was in a couple different iterations, just looking at past capital plans, carved into pieces and then put in CNRE, and then it fell victim to the infamous year 6, which means it's not into. In year 6 became this big, and then 7 through 10 became like that, which is why I'm trying to get away from that line of thinking. We should be thinking 5 years out in terms of capital planning. So yes, this actually has been in the SIP discussion for years and years now.
Just in piece.
Put in, out. Actually, I think as recently as last year, it was actually in there. A few pieces were in. And then now just the salt shed is the only thing that's in there, but you really can't do the salt shed without addressing anything else in the site because the salt shed is twice the size.
But I think it's also determined that this, you can't break it into pieces.
Correct,
So
yeah.
we can't just dump $10 million in the middle.
Correct.
Middle of the capital plan.
Yeah,
So
no,
that's why.
Point being, this wasn't like, this wouldn't be
Yeah.
like a shock to the capital plan.
Right.
Oh my God, beach and rec,
Yeah.
in DPW
No.
consolidation, that that project has been in there in various forms, just not like this. So this is we're talking about project packaging, like this is the package for this project that then, like again, we want to coalesce behind the concept and then we start to figure out what's the best way to fund this thing and when.
This was presented back in 2023 to this board.
Yeah.
So they're familiar.
No, I mean like this concept as in right now, like it's most current.
Right. And we had sticker shock 3 years ago because it was the first one on your chart, right?
Right.
Well,
And
and it's
then-
at the same time as Neck River
Yeah,
and it was.
yeah. We were going through all these bonding projects, so it keeps getting, I think, it's not sexy, right? In terms of a project, but it's kind of an important, right? I'm sure some people think it very much is, but it's also critical to our infrastructure. It's critical to our, we learned that through, I mean, our guys don't have bunks to sleep in. They have to sleep in their trucks when a blizzard is going on. I mean, that's kind of exactly what. Yeah, exactly. And it's a privilege for everybody to walk down there. I'm sure you will.
Dr. Minutia.
And there's no doubt, there's no doubt. At least if somebody can take a hot shower.
Yeah.
$50.
Yeah.
Go to the first one.
Yeah.
That was actually.
The last one, they were there for 50 hours straight.
Yeah, I mean,
50.
50.
yeah, no, it is, we do not have the level of facilities we should have, especially when we're dealing with storm responses, and it's not even just the winter anymore, it's during the summer.
Being able to keep equipment inside.
Yeah, maintained,
It
right?
extends the life of the gate so that you can't do that.
You got brand new trucks sitting outside.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Brand new truck sitting outside.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Wow.
Saves a lot.
And I think because I recall being on the board of finance when they did the original plan, and they ended up compromising and just doing, I remember it was a big deal, right? Because we didn't go to town, there was a town meeting or it wasn't on adding the bays, I can't remember. It was a big controversy, even when they added the base, this is back in 2010, I think.
Yeah.
And I remember the fight over adding a new generator to the gas pump because you had to go out and start the generator to get it work. So if you're like driving in the middle of the storm and you need to get more gas and there's nobody there, you had to go and manually start up the generator to run the gas pump.
Oh, Sam and I are
gas.
familiar with that generator. We tried to bring it over to the EOC during our temporary shutdown. It was otherwise occupied.
So, there was, we got to a certain point, we made some improvements, and then the rest of it just got kind of shelved for a long time because of other priorities. Which always happens. But now it's coming back, and this is kind of the new proposal that the staff is supporting.
Can we talk about employee parking?
Sure.
This plan allows for 11 parking spots.
They carpool? No, I don't know. You guys were.
I'm talking about adding, you're talking about taking 12 and making it another 12. And in this plan, it doesn't even look like there's enough for the first 12.
Yeah.
If you pull up the Jeannie, it's Austin. Can you pull up the site plan? Please.
I thought the economy for that.
There you go. That's the one.
So right now, DPW parks kind of like where these would be, right?
Right?
And then they go out.
more-
Then they go
got a
out
few
front.
more Path. But those are the only parking spots I see. So the question is, how do 20 some people park there? I counted, it's 11.
I mean, as my own personal experience, no one actually parks in a parking spot. They park all over the site, but it's something you have to.
Yeah, look, parallel park on the edge, like,
Yeah. They kind of park all.
And
over.
on each side of the first and last parking spot on the left-hand side. It was thought of. It'll fit everybody.
Okay.
That's a question.
I'm just observing that there's 11 spaces in the plan and we're talking about 20 plus people working there. I guess what we're saying is everybody will just park wherever they can, which.
I don't, they might have an answer for that. They just don't right now. I mean, it's because it's not the
Exception.
there. Yeah, but that's a good question. make sure that
Yeah.
does this accommodate the parking needs? They might have to change some things. I think there is,
No more berm.
pardon?
No more berm in the corner, in the park there.
Well, the problem with the berm is that takes all the fill.
Yeah.
You know, so then it costs a lot of money to truck it out of sight, right off site, right? So that was trying to be useful, but I mean, we can get all the answers on specifics. I think today was to update you on this, and then I think we come back to this and how it fits relative to a lot of other things. Ultimately, does it get added to the CIP plan, which we would be submitting this summer, which we normally do in the summer? This, you know, we don't bring everything to the board, but this is a big one, and it's gonna be something we'd have to decide priority and how we pay for it and all that stuff. So, and I do think it is an important need.
And this does kind of inform decisions that get made as part of Surf Club master planning process
Yeah.
as well, so.
So this is kind of your next big project that's in a conceptualized state, like a the end of its conceptual phase. So there really isn't anything big like this that's at this point right now.
But I like, Jen, I like what you were going with that, though, that it does connect multiple
does.
projects, so
Right.
that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, it's not just sitting out.
We're not doing it in
by
isolation.
itself.
And that's why the facilities
Fixing
committee
multiple
built this into their plan. It was because they were going around with a whole bunch of other, we're like, hang on, focus for a minute, because a lot of this has already been thought of. And especially the operational departments are already on board with, the time and money has been spent on getting to this. So plan, and of course, if there's another idea out there, okay, we talk about it, but like build around this. So,
The Facilities committee, not for nothing, has been tasked with looking at all of our facilities,
Yep.
parcels of land and built infrastructure. I mean, there's probably not a group that has a better understanding of potentials and possibilities for what we have in town, more so than they do at this.
yeah, from what I understand, their opinion, I don't want to speak for them, but if that this was the best option of the others that they were evaluating through their process as well.
So good. I do think we have to throw back to my original question about cost, though, for the surf club. I think we got to look at this from a total cost standpoint as well, though. So knowing what the demo is going to be at surf club is in addition to this total cost.
Well, I think that we'll be coming by this summer, we'll have a master plan that has identified costs, and part of that will be, doing that, and then it's gonna be helpful because we'll also have facilities committee will be coming forward with what they're recommending for the different vacant buildings that we have. And the other things that they're looking at, so we'll have a full picture. Much easier to prioritize if you have like the full picture, right? And then say, okay, this is more critical, or this is further along. And probably should get moved forward, so it's all kind of coming together at the right time, which is good.
Does this impact in any way the Green Hill facility? The Green Hill School Campus facility?
No, because that's facilities.
That's
ours.
just the school district?
No, I mean, that's the town facilities, our maintenance department. That's not Austin's crew. So that's Peter's crew. I'm office there. So that's
We have equipment there, don't we?
there is the facilities internal, it's tough. It's a different arrangement here than I'm used to, but I guess you would call them, I guess you would call those internal facilities. No, for townwide, town and district. All of our maintenance personnel that work there are split town and board, including Peter, including myself.
But this is just public works and building departments, so it's not involving that department, right? The facilities department.
Yeah, you have facilities, and then there's buildings and grounds, which is not the inside of the facilities. I think it's an iteration because at one point it was just the schools, and then town was added onto it, and even before that, grounds department was part of the schools. And then so took me a while to get used to that arrangement as well.
All right, well, thank you for the
Thanks, guys.
presentation, and then we'll have further conversations, but it's
Thank you, appreciate it. So.
very good. Okay, and then I'm sure we're all excited about the next one, update. Because it means summer's coming soon, hopefully. So Austin is here from the Beach and Rec Commission, or from the department, and then I think we have somebody from the commission here, right?
Right, yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah, if you want to come up and join, or you can.
Yeah, I've never done this before. Where would you like?
Yeah, you can just sit next to Austin. So do you have any materials to share, or is it just a
So-
conversation?
I sent a memo to the selectmen,
Yeah.
last week, so, a little historical perspective, so we sell non-resident, beach parking passes every year for a long time. And the last 2 years, with the Garvin project, we had to change the pricing structure and the way we sold passes to non-residents. So prior to the Garvin project, Monday through Friday, non-resident daily parking passes were 25 per vehicle. And Saturday and Sunday, they were 40 per vehicle. Garden project happens, we had to offer seasonal non-resident beach parking passes, which we did at $112 per vehicle, capped at 100 vehicles. And we had to decrease the price of the daily non-resident parking pass. It couldn't be more than double the resident daily parking pass. So resident daily parking pass is 10. So the non-resident daily parking pass was 20 the last 2 years. And some data that I gave back in October. We sell, as I said earlier, we sell 100 non-resident season parking passes. And we averaged 6 of those per day at Surf Club, 1 per day at East Wharf, and 2 per day at West Wharf. So not a lot of use for the amount sold. And we sold 1,871 non-resident daily parking passes. And I broke that down even further. 944 was weekends and holidays, and 927 of those were weekday. Obviously, more weekdays than weekends in total. So that's the stats behind the story. And the Beach and Rec Commission was tasked to come up with what the pricing plan for this year would be. And I will, before I hand it over to Randy, I did some research on towns surrounding us on what they charge non-residents for their beach facility parking fees. This year, 2026, Guilford is $175 per vehicle, age 64 and under, and 100 for age 65 and over and veterans. That's non-residents. And their daily passes are $50 per day, regardless of the day of the week. Clinton does not have a seasonal pass, but charges $50 Monday through Thursday, $75 Friday through Sunday. Brantford, according to their website, does not permit non-resident parking at their town beach. And Old Saybrook, season pass $150, daily pass is $20 Monday through Thursday, $30 Friday through Sunday. So with that, I will hand it to Randy to talk about the recommendation from the Beach and Rec Commission.
Thank you for having me. We had a good discussion, using all the information that Austin had gathered, and ultimately our recommendation was $200 for the season. We did like the idea of differentiating between the weekend and the weekdays, and decided to include Friday, as part of the weekend. And decided on $75 for the weekend, $50 for the Monday through Thursday.
Guilford, quick question, Guilford, you said, I thought they charged something.
This is their new 2026 price.
So they used to charge 75, okay, so they're at 50 now. You said,
Uh, according to the website that I saw, daily pass is 50, and they're now offering a seasonal pass of 175, age 64 and under, and 165 plus.
Can you just talk about the conversation at the commission about why we would increase it so much based on what we were charging historically?
Well, we all agree, and obviously we volunteer to serve on this commission, that the beach and in particular surf club and the other beaches are the gem of the town. So with that in mind, by comparison, what Guilford and some of the other towns have to offer, how does that balance out? There's also consideration for, some of the things we hear in passing. Maybe even when I hear in my own home from my wife, like, why don't we charge more? I said, well, we want to be fair into this and that, the other thing. And there were varying opinions around the table, and we played with numbers. It was one of those conversations where it may be a difference of $5 or $10. So I don't know if we want to call it nominal for the season, but ultimately this was what the group agreed on, and I believe it was unanimous, sorry. So that was mostly based on the comparisons, what we had heard around town, what our opinions were. It's hard to quantify something like this. The idea of what people would be willing to pay, the idea of what would be seen as maybe incentivizing people coming and then hearing complaints about, oh, I can't get a parking spot, things like that, but not making it exclusive either. So
Randy, what's the daily on this? Is there a daily also?
yeah, so that's the one that's broken down the weekends.
75.
Is 75, and then Monday through Thursdays.
But those are daily rate? Those are
Yeah.
actual daily
Yeah.
rates?
Yeah, for the non-resident. So that's what I saw listed out in the memo was the non-resident pricing. What is the resident pricing?
Too much. Too much.
Bruce will always say free.
If it's more than zero,
Not allowed
it's
to
too
talk
much.
about it today.
And we haven't changed
No
that.
recommendation to change the resident.
Okay.
So the daily resident parking pass is 10.
Oh.
And the resident seasonal pass is 40. And 20 for a season.
And veterans too.
And veterans, I'm sorry, 10 senior, 10 veteran
Okay.
Per season.
per season.
That's
I'll add to Randy's color commentary. I think the commissioners all kind of started the conversation in a different place. And as they worked through the different scenarios, they all converged in on this one, and it was unanimous. But I would say that they didn't go into the conversation with any minds made up. They really did discover a consensus in that discussion.
Yeah, good. Open minds.
Yeah, we're trying.
Yeah.
I have some concerns a little bit, just because we're coming from what was a very affordable price, right? To a huge jump in terms of a pass, and jumping from $20 to $75. And I feel like the $75 is more of saying we don't want you to, you know what I mean? I think if you're charging something that is reasonable, and historically we're charging 40 in the weekends. I just feel like the $75 might discourage. If our goal is to not have people come, I think $75 is basically telling people we don't want them to come to our beaches. Which I don't like sending that message, I feel like we should be sending something where, especially because you have family and friends in the area who want to just experience the beach. Somebody wants to just see what Madison's all about and say, hey, let's go check out their beach for the day, right? And you pull up and you're like, what? So, it's just you and your spouse, or you got the kids in the back, and you've been going to Hammonasset, you just want to see what Madison's all about, or maybe you're thinking moving here. To me, $75 is just a really big price to pay to just kind of check out the beach for the day in Madison, right? Whereas $40, you're like, okay, well, I'll spend $40. I'll go in and you go to. So I just am a little concerned about that. We have a lot more parking than.
You're okay with the
Clinton.
season though? The season was okay?
The season to me, that's a privilege. Like, I feel like that, I think I'm very comfortable with that, right? To me, having a price tag though, and as somebody who did not grow up near a beach, but would want to go try some, my parents lived in the Boston area, and trying to be able to just go and experience a public beach and check out an area, or I don't feel it should be so cost prohibitive where you're turning people away in that sense. So I feel like you want to cover, and I agree that we have big costs. Our surf club and we're going to be talking more about big costs, right? So I agree that it's fair to charge something for people who aren't paying through tax dollars to support this, right? But at the same point, we have a town, we're just talking about hospitality, and we have businesses downtown, and we want to welcome people to the town during the summer when it makes sense. I feel like just $75 seems just excessively high. That's all. To me, it's saying we don't want you to come, really. And so that's my personal opinion, and I'm comfortable raising it, but I just feel like that number just seems really high to me. So
Personally, that for me, when I think about what Clinton has to offer at their beaches, and they're charging $75 for a Friday through Sunday versus all of the amenities that we have at our beaches. I mean, you can put your kayaks or your paddle boards on your car and drive them in and launch them off Garvin Point. You've got the skate park, the playgrounds. And then again, what is it after 5, you're not paying anyway, so that's not going to impact MJ's. But then we've got the cornhole boards, we've got the volleyball nets, we've got all of the shuffleboard or the bocce pits. I mean, we really have a lot to offer that we need to maintain. That I don't feel like $75 is that high for the value you're going to get out of it, especially if you have a family outing and you're spending the whole day there. $75 is a whole lot cheaper than you would spend to go and utilize fun things like that other places throughout the state.
I think that, some of the comparisons we have, though, they have much smaller parking lots. I think they are trying to discourage people from using the beaches because they have limited spots for a large population. Like Guilford does not have as many parking spots. Their beach is not as big. I know that the lake, it's the same cost to go to that lake beach. It's tiny. So I do feel like this is really more strategically intentional to say, you gotta really want to come to our beach, right? Whereas I think we're just in a different dynamic. But like I
this
said,
is
personal,
$75 to park your car there.
Yeah.
You could take the extra mile and get dropped off at the gate and walk in. Nobody's prevented from just walking in. This is simply a parking fee. So you can ride your bike in, you can
Walk
take
in.
extra mile, you can
go to Hammonasset.
or you can go to Hammonasset.
So, I think the fees don't say don't come in. The fees say, look, it costs us a lot of money to maintain this beautiful facility.
Mhm.
Everybody needs to contribute. Madison residents don't even get to come here for free.
Yeah.
So
I mean-
I think, and we're just correcting our pricing schedule to be more in line with neighboring towns. We were artificially low. We took the money, we ran. Now that's over. And we get back to a more market appropriate fee. Again, the value shopper, I don't think is going to distinguish between 40 and 75. They're going to distinguish between free and having to pay something. And they're going to go free to have an asset, which, by the way, is also partially subsidized by Madison property taxpayers. So I don't think this is a choice of beach or no beach. This is.
I just, that's just, like I said, it's my personal opinion. All the arguments make sense.
Well, and that's why we're here, right?
Yeah.
For all of us to,
Yeah.
voice our opinions, and nobody's right or wrong. It's
When
just
do you start selling passes?
Resident passes go on sale April 1st.
most important question. Do we have a sticker design that we're ready to release yet?
It's designed and in stock and ready to go.
We'll brag about it. It's very
It
nice.
came out really
With
nice.
the,
Ready this year?
Thanks.
What's up?
Going red, white, and blue this year?
Really?
And due to popular demand, it is a outside sticker, not interior sticker.
Love it.
So if you
Moving and
have
shaking this
tint
year.
on your windows on the inside, this will not
Getting
affect.
those things off. Man, not here.
We sell a razor if you'd like to have it. Or I will do it for you.
I'll hold you to that.
I still let my husband.
So Al and I have,
Take
all
yours.
right, hang on. So Al and I haven't spoken yet. So
Oh, yeah,
can we-
yeah, of course. Well, we're not voting.
You guys,
So we're gonna come back with a vote at the next meeting. Go ahead.
I also,
so I too think it's a little bit of a jump. It does feel like, we're doubling 25 to 50, 40 to 75. So was there any discussion about, maybe a gradual process versus that double?
I don't recall a gradual. It was more about what is fair, what do we want to do? Some people have suggested higher, some lower. So it was more about, coming to a middle ground with what people thought was appropriate.
So there was even higher suggestions. Wow. Wow.
Al, do you have any thoughts?
Over the years, I've observed that there's few other subjects that lead to such a lively discussion by the selectmen as the setting of beach fees. And I think the reason for that is, Austin, please correct me. This is more of a symbolic issue than really a revenue issue, because the difference, $10 or $15 either way in a pass, it doesn't seem to me it amounts to a whole lot of money. Am I correct?
if we go to what the commission is recommending, yes, it will be significant.
It's material. Yeah, 1,871 passes.
And if we go to 200 instead of 112, that's 11,000 or 20,000 in 4 minutes.
In 100 years, we could pay for the work at the DPW.
Now, let me ask you a question. I know since this was kind of one of Peggy's concerns, people that go and visit the hotels or the bed and breakfast and whatnot, do we have any sort of program extended to those businesses where visitors can obtain?
Yeah,
a
so
pass?
a lot of so as a resident
Mhm.
or a property owner, you're allowed to purchase daily passes at the resident rate.
Mhm.
So if you're staying at the hotel has the ability to purchase the resident daily tags.
Mhm.
If you're staying at the Tidewater Inn or the Homestead, they have the ability to purchase, not the person staying there,
Right.
but the owner of the property has the ability to purchase a resident daily tag. And
Yeah, they give that as
Single
an
use.
amenity.
But
No.
some towns do have something specifically for short-term rentals and hospitality. And I think we might want to consider that at one point, right? Because I know people who come in and buy stacks of these. So they're renting out their house for 2 months and they'll leave those for their guests.
And that, that's a worthwhile conversation
Yeah,
to enter
right.
that, but I think that's very specific outside of our standard
Yeah.
pricing
Right.
schedule.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
And they don't expire, right?
they expire the day you use them.
Right, but
if you buy 10, and
if I
don't-
buy 10 and I use 8,
Correct.
I still have 2 left over. They're good until I use them.
correct.
It's like a forever stamp.
Even subsequent years.
So
Yeah.
I promised myself, if I could have 30 seconds, I promised myself whenever I have the ability to be in front of the Board of Selectmen on TV leading up to the Beach Fest season, I plead with the public, please put the sticker on your car.
I've never not done that.
No cellophane, no holding it up when you drive through. You have to stick it to your windshield. If it's not stuck to the windshield, you will not be let into the beach. Please.
So
I'll do it.
thank you I know this is not an easy conversation, so my kind of comments were meant more as my emotional reaction sometimes to this, because it is a sensibility we've all lived through a beach pass. And I think, you know, the idea would be then we would vote on this at the next meeting, so then you could, you know, start putting out the pricing sheets and stuff, for non-residents, but you're sticking to the plan, I guess, for this year for the, residents. We're just not changing it, which has been a long time, but that's gonna be more of another, you know, philosophical conversation about the program itself, right? So I appreciate that, and then we'll just put it on the agenda for a vote, for the next meeting, okay? That's it. All right, well, thank you. Sorry, I just threw all the other stuff.
That's all right.
Appreciate it.
And
Yeah.
the second meeting of the month, so the next evening meeting in April, I'll give a preview of the beach season with all the dates.
Yeah, okay, so. And I think, you know, it'll, maybe we have that at the same time that we talk about where we are with Madison 200 and all the other stuff going on too, because there's a lot of the surf, one, yeah, our big event is at the surf club. So with that, I guess, any citizens' comments in the room, please, and please, and wanted to congratulate you, by the way. I know you were sitting there, and then I thought we didn't congratulate her.
Suzanne Muller, 43 Chelsea Springs Drive. In reference to item 6C on the agenda, Greg Scalzo, the Republican Registrar of Voters, has resigned. I have been the Deputy Registrar, Republican, for the last 4 years. So according to state statute, I automatically get moved out. So I just kind of want to put a face to the name. And I had to just say, it takes a village to pull off these elections that we do, and the Sam's group and Austin, and a lot of people really help us out with all that. So my goal is to continue doing our fair and elections, and just so that we all know some of them is.
Awesome.
Can I make a little comment about the presentation about the public works thing?
It's public comment, you can comment on.
Well, just an observation. Two things. One is Mr. Wilson's comment about expansion. I shouldn't even say this word, but I have often thought if the Ryerson property would be considered to put public, because I personally feel that where the public works garage is now, it's not the center of town. It's very far south, and especially in storms, they can keep trucks up there, and there might be room for expansion. There's city water up there already, I believe. And then in reference to your question about parking, the public would still go to the beach and rec to get their stickers, right? So they did keep parking, and I know we ran into a problem here at Town Hall. We started early voting. We did not have enough handicap parking. So that sucks up. That's a terrible word, but that uses up a lot of your spaces and there's some consideration for those.
Beach and Rec is staying at the surf club. Buildings and grounds would be moving here.
Oh,
It's just the maintenance people, not the beach and rec staff.
Oh, okay. So I go by my sticker
That's
in this new project.
No change.
No change.
Change.
Okay,
Go
no.
to surf club.
I was confused too.
All right, well, thank you. So that's right. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other hands here? And then I guess online, any hands raised online? Oh, Walter, yes.
Two quick things. A, something for you guys to think about in the future. Is it possible to rent out the Academy Street building to somebody on a 10-year lease to let them build a hotel, et cetera? We maintain ownership of the property. There'd be a tax thing. They would pay the taxes. If any additional sewer work has to be done or septic work, they would absorb all of that.
That was the RFI. That was in the RFI. So that's exactly what we're.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I'm all for preserving, et cetera. It would also bring us money.
Yeah.
And I also don't want to see the fields taken away behind, because I see these guys 70 and 80 years old playing baseball. I see kids with disabilities being tutored by high school kids on Sundays.
Yes.
They give up their time to coach these kids, and I've always been impressed with
Playing
that.
baseball. Yeah.
Yeah. Next thing, real quick. When you come off exit 61 northbound on 95, it looks like the enchanted forest, except it's not enchanted. We've got this stump there that's been there for years. I'm asking if the board needs to empower the first select woman to send a letter to the governor send a picture to the governor of this thing. It looks like a third world country when you get off
I know what you're talking
90. Everybody knows what it looks like. I mean, we could tell, instead of telling people, make a left onto 79, see where the stump is, make a left. Okay. Next thing, real quick. On the southbound side of the railroad, on the other side of Railroad Avenue, but on the southbound side of the tracks, the state has cut trees down and left them there. I'm not a fan. I'm a retired cop. So this guy over here, who I have all the faith in the world in, I think it's a fire hazard. And also, the railroad ties are creosote. They're carcinogens, which means cancer. And if they go on fire, we could have a miniature thing like what happens in New York. And we have all residences on the other side of the railroad tracks. And all we need is a little bit of wind. Okay. But the stump, everybody has seen it. It's not like, hey, can you take a picture and show us what it looks like? Empower the first select woman, or if she doesn't need empower, get on the phone to the governor and say, hey, do me this favor, do this community a favor, and elections coming. Thank you very much for your time. I think the presentations by the individuals from, I don't know if it's DPW or whatever, but very, very informative and good to hear. And I hope you could move rapidly on what I've asked you to do in regards to the Don Hankin Citizens of the Year. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's been a very,
Thank you for
very
your-
informative evening.
Good to see you, Walter. Thank you. Any other hands raised? No, I don't see anything online. So with that, I guess, if I hear no objection.
Motion adjourned.